Hello, everyone. This is Drayton Boylston with the Executive Coaching University, and I would like to say that I am incredibly grateful for my co-host today, Miss Jenna Forster, and that's the topic that we'll be getting into in this webinar, and we'll keep it short and sweet, and I know that Jenna will be bringing some incredible insights into this webinar about how you can, in a very simple way, embrace gratitude even more and the powerful impact that it has on your life. I know it has been an incredible find for me, and I'm very grateful that I found this practice. So I hope you will be too. Jenna, good to see you, at least virtually.
Hello, nice to see everybody again. Happy, I think we're working on a Wednesday today. I don't know, where we are in other necks of the woods, but happy Wednesday to you today. And I'm happy to be sharing this with everybody and talking about one of the subjects that I think is really a life changer for a lot of people. I always think about some of these topics that we cover being a gear shift, and we have our handle on the gear shift, and we have the ability to switch gears mentally and physically at any moment. So this would definitely fall into that category for me, and I have used it myself for quite a few years and really found it tremendous. So happy to be here, happy to share some of this information with you. Talking about gratitude, really gratitude is an affirmation of goodness. It's coming from that place of seeing the positive in our situation, in the people around us, and potentially even in ourselves. So we want to talk about that because it's really a way of pulling things back in to us and switching out of some of the behavioral looping that we may be doing in our leadership capacity. Do you have anything around gratitude that comes up for you when you hear that, Drayton?
Yeah, I think what I think of when we start thinking about gratitude is that we get out of our own stuff and we think about all the greatness that is around us that we may overlook. And I think as leaders, we tend to, we go within and we think about all of our stuff versus projecting out and being of service to people. And gratitude is a great way to do that. You find someone that challenges you and finding little reasons to be grateful to have that person in your life. When we can make that kind of shift and we go, oh my goodness, this is, John Doe over here. And every time I see him, my blood pressure goes up, and then shifting that and finding a way to be grateful for John Doe and the way he shows up in the world and the lessons that it's teaching us. So the more we find ways to go to this place of gratitude as we interact with challenging people or people that we love too, that's where we typically go, right? Because it's the easiest thing. But when we show up and we come from that place of I'm grateful for even the things that are challenging in my life, that's a huge deal. And one of the big shifts for me, Jenna, was when I figured out that things don't happen to me, they happen for me. And when I have a challenging situation and I shift it and become very grateful for that challenge, because I know on some level it's happening for me, then everything seems to shift.
Yeah, and I love that. I can actually feel that when you said that. I think of gratitude as it's a leadership skill because it is a relationship strengthener. Mm-hmm. So when we are talking about mindful leadership and we're trying to cultivate our leadership styles, gratitude has a very big piece in that. And a couple of things you mentioned about recognizing the opportunity in the situation rather than closing down and shutting down. When we are pulling in and closing off, we're not actually leading anymore or shielding or hiding. So gratitude is just a really great way to open ourselves up and to see true opportunity that's all around us. And when I think about behavior and leadership, really we act out what we think. And we do it all of the time. So if we're coming at and we're seeing John walk down the hallway towards us and we have an automatic response to that person And if that's a negative loop for us, we will close down, and we're then not open to having the proper conversations that were really necessary to shift anything, including efficiency and effectiveness of what we're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. Mm-hmm. And I think it's that awareness. We always talk about awareness. We want to be aware of how we're showing up, aware of things around us, aware of the people, the way we impact people, our energy around that. And I think this is an amazing way to shift that awareness that you have, that, you know, in this moment, I can find this gratitude, and therefore my energy and the way I show up to lead people is completely different than if I choose to operate in the same mode that I have for my entire career. And it's not easy work. Yet there are tools such as this, that employing gratitude, that you can take into the workplace and make a conscious choice to employ, that will most importantly impact others. But a byproduct of that is it brings a renewed richness into your life that is unlike anything you may have experienced.
And it affects us on so many levels. If we just think about the place of stress, and how gratitude can have an impact on that. Stress is tension, tension in our mind and in our body. And the situation, whatever is happening, is just the situation until we create some sort of resistance to it. And that can show up as a thought, as a behavior, as some sort of display of action. And really, all of that is driven on our past experiences. So we've created this really great story around what happened, what is happening, and what could potentially happen. But there's nothing tangible in that. And so if we think about stress on a person mentally, or stress on a person physically, it's really the resistance that causes the suffering. So we have a thought about something, or we behave in that manner. And when I think about it as we have the negative looping that we can do, and we have the positive looping, and they can't run at the same time. So you can't have envy for someone and gratitude for someone at the same time. If you try it, it doesn't actually work, because they are combative, if you will. They don't set from the same place. So we can either spend our time on the negative loop, or we can spend our time on the positive loop. And if we spend our time on the negative loop, then we are creating tension. We are creating resistance in some way, which actually causes suffering. And it can be suffering mentally or physically.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful, Jenna, because I think people think that there are stressors in their lives and that they have to react to them and they can't do anything about it. And the reality is, stress is a choice. Mm-hmm. When it comes down to the essence of it, it is a choice. We're choosing to react a certain way to a certain situation, person, or thing. And the reality is that we own that. And we have a choice in that moment to bring on that stress, or with the help of, say, gratitudes, you start feeling this stress. And again, most people feel that it happens to them instead of for them. And if you shift it and go, okay, I'm feeling this tension in my body, and it's probably from something that I'm bringing to the table experientially way back when. Mm-hmm. And this is happening, I'm reacting this way, and I'm going to make a conscious choice to shift that, to find something I'm grateful for in this moment. And I completely believe in what you said, Jenna, that those two things can't exist on the same continuum. So we have that choice. We can embrace that stress, or we can shift it and choose to find something to be grateful for in that moment. And therefore, that pathway is cleared in a very, very positive way.
Completely agree. And that's that gear shifting that I spoke about in the beginning, right? We do have our hand on the gear shift. And if you think about it from a vehicle perspective, we are in control of how fast we drive, how well we drive. We do not need to live in this very reactionary stance, because reactions are based on past, or projections of the future. So if we think about a lot of us live reactionary to what's around us, like you spoke about, right? This is happening to me. You could even break that down to, my phone just dinged. Mm-hmm. So I am now being controlled by that.
Mm-hmm.
Gratitude is still a way of projecting outward, but it's a positive way of projecting outward. So instead of things coming to us and us reacting in a certain way, it is us projecting something out. And we could talk about the ripple effect and how that can really transform teams.
Yeah.
But it's still bringing I back into the situation because I am grateful.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's the timing is so interesting. I had a coaching call yesterday, one of my clients, and we were talking about gratitude. And we were talking about leaders assume so much of themselves, people around them. And we started talking about, when was the last time you gave a compliment to this one particular person, or he brought something up that was good? And I said, well, did you let them know that? And let them know that you were grateful for that? He goes, they know it. And what I have found over time is that we assume, especially people at certain levels in an organization, get enough compliments and, their ego is big and, don't want to swell their head, and it cuts both ways. So when we express gratitude for maybe someone that we report to, they did something wonderful for you or for the organization, and you express that, it's a really powerful thing for both parties and for all parties that witness it. And the same goes for people that report to you. Showing gratitude and being very specific about that. They do something great on a project, one particular piece of that project, get very specific and say, I'm really grateful for this job that you did on this particular thing. And we, don't assume that everybody gets enough. Or don't assume that, the significant other in your life or your friends and other members of your family, that they hear these things enough. So it's really important to take what you feel and express it every single chance that you have, whether it's the sky at night or the fact that your car started. When you start expressing gratitude for those things that you appreciate and are in your life now, more of those great things come into your existence too.
Mm-hmm. And I think about basic human behavior. There's some sort of an occurrence, so a trigger, something happens. And then the trigger causes a behavior. And that behavior is either based on the past or the projection of the future. And then we get some sort of reward. When, as you state, as if we can start to approach things from a place of gratitude, we are still in that same loop. Trigger, behavior, reward, trigger, behavior, reward. However, we have created space between the trigger and the behavior. That's reacting versus responding, right? We always speak about you can react or you can respond. Mm-hmm. When we can interject gratitude in that moment between the trigger and the behavior, we now have shifted ourselves into a place of response, which we control, versus react, which is, it's based on the past.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true. This is probably a great time to share with folks an exercise where they can do just that. Mm-hmm. They can be in that moment and make that conscious choice.
Yeah, and before we go into the meditation, just a couple of tips for people. There's a concept in mindfulness that's called the ABCD concept. And so when we're meditating, when we're in that place, there's a process that we can go through that will allow us to be in the meditation. A is attention. So we've now decided to shift our attention. And that doesn't have to look like sitting and closing our eyes and being in a space. It can be in that moment between trigger and behavior where we decide to pay attention. Breath, breathing. When we breathe, we shift from our fight-flight side to our affective side of the nervous system, so sympathetic, parasympathetic. Counting, that brings our mind back into the present. So as we fly off in our moments of mindfulness, counting can bring us back. And then distraction, really appreciating the distraction. Our minds are here to think. Mm-hmm. We are meant to think. You are meant to go off. It is the pulling back that's that's where the work is. So it's like weight training, lifting a weight, right? It's the resistance of the weight that actually affects the muscle the most. So it is the bringing back from the distraction. So instead of fighting the distraction, allowing the distraction and bringing it back, that's where the mental exercise is. Mm-hmm. So keeping that in mind, I'll walk us through that a little bit and just experience it. So I'm going to ask everyone, like last time, if we're seated in a chair, let's just put our feet firmly on the floor and really feel your feet on the floor. So as I spoke about last time, sometimes our toes are crunched up, our feet are crunched up. We don't actually touch the ground with all of our foot. And we want to be able to do that. That's very grounding. It allows us to be in it. And I'm going to ask you to take 3 deep breaths. And I'm going to ask you to take the deep breaths in and out of your nose. And the reason for that is because that switches our nervous system. I want you to feel the chair you're seated in, or if you're standing, feel your body in a straight, upright position, holding your own space. Breathing in and out. As you breathe in, say, breathe in. As you breathe out, say, breathe out. Now shift as you breathe in, say 1. As you breathe out, say 2. In your head, breathe in 1. Breathe out 2. Continue that. As your mind wanders off, just gently pull it back. Breathe in 1. Breathe out 2. As you feel ready, gently opening the eyes, letting the room come back to you. And we carry forward with gratitude.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Jenna, thank you. Thank you. I'm very grateful for you and what you brought to this webinar today. And I'm grateful for all of you out there listening to this. And stay tuned for the next session.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.